Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. Welcome back to my channel if you are returning. Today I want to talk about something that I think a lot of people deal with. In fact, I would argue virtually everybody struggles with this notion of time and what to do if we begin to feel impatient. This was something that actually came up as a request, and it's something that I definitely want to address when it comes to the topic of patience and how to go about feeling more patient as we are manifesting, as we are going on this journey. And when it comes to things such as SP, when it comes to things such as money, things that feel very gripping and the desire is so strong, how do we curb that if we begin to feel impatient? If this is something that you are going through, if this is something that perhaps you're struggling with, I definitely recommend sticking around to the end of the video, because today we're going to talk all about what to do when you begin to feel impatient, what to do if you're not seeing movement in the 3D, and how to combat that. So if manifestation and conscious creation are topics that you want to learn more about, then you're going to definitely want to subscribe to that channel. And do not forget to hit a thumbs up button if you find this content enjoyable, if you find it informative. Also, if you are interested in any of my resources, such as one-on-one coaching, my new workshops and programs, I will have links to all of that down in the description box below. So definitely don't forget to check that out. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump on in. When it comes to the topic of time, as I've spoken about many times on this channel, many people have probably heard this, but the notion of time is a complete illusion. Now, I know it doesn't help when it still feels very strong in that we're on this linear timeline. And it typically is the case that the longer time has elapsed without seeing any movement, without seeing any progress or anything from the 3D, we begin to doubt ourselves. It's really difficult to maintain faith the longer the time goes by. I think everybody generally has experienced at one point or another. I certainly did. But I want to talk a little bit about a couple of things that I notice when it comes to time. And one of those things to address is something like success stories. This is a thing that I hear about a lot when it comes to success stories, because on the one hand, success stories are wonderful. They help to keep us motivated and keep us going and help to give us that boost to keep that momentum up, which is a good thing. But it can also come as a double-edged sword in that when we see comments about other people who were able to successfully manifest their SP or whatever it was in a matter of weeks or even days, that can feel incredibly disheartening. And that, again, can lead us into that doubt spiral. So the reason I wanted to mention that is A, it's something that a lot of people have struggled with, but B, is that the one thing that we're not seeing, or at least we're not seeing in regards to that success story, is what may be happening behind the scenes. And what I mean by that is that through the years I have talked to many people about the law, and I know that there have been many instances where somebody was successful in manifesting their SP in a matter of days or weeks, in a short amount of time, but because they had not fully immersed in that new state, because they had not fully had that radical transformation of self, as Neville describes it, what happens many times in that instance is that the changes become temporary. And this is what we are looking to avoid. And I'm not saying that this is always the case. I'm not saying that nobody has ever manifested their SP in a short amount of time and maintained that. That's not at all. But what I'm saying is, with something that requires that much of a shift to our core beliefs, it happens more often than one might think. That because they have not fully moved into that new state and maintained it, thus being more susceptible to slipping back into that old state of consciousness, that though they were successful in manifesting their person back, it was temporary. Now, I don't say this to scare anyone or to upset anyone. I say this because, first and foremost, I want to make sure that if you're seeing these things, that you're not turning inwards and beating yourself up. If you're seeing success stories that it only took that person a couple of days or weeks, but it's taken me months, if not years, something's wrong with me, what's wrong with me, that thinking is what we want to avoid. That mentality of beating ourselves up is what we want to avoid. Know first and foremost that this, again, as I said many times, we want to look at manifestation and consciously creating, consciously manifesting as something that is our lifestyle. We want to incorporate it as our being. This is who we are. We want to step into the roles of the opera power, and that is an investment that we want to make. I say all that to say that impatience can be swift and fierce, and it can quickly come in and it still is full of doubt, and any kind of faith or any kind of confidence that we may have built up, we may find ourselves very shaken. What helped me tremendously is to change perspective. When I had those moments, and I had many moments where I found myself getting very tired of waiting, so to speak, very impatient, wondering what the hell's taking so long. What helped me was a change in perspective. Because one thing that we have to note is that in this day and age, as it is, it's very much about instant gratification. We have become, more so now than ever, expecting things to show up as quickly as possible. And we see it in every aspect of our lives. Our attention spans are shorter than they have ever been, which naturally can make things like this all the more difficult. So I say all this to say that what helped me was to change my perspective on what I was doing. I realized one day that because I could not seemingly stop looking to the 3D, because I found it very difficult, because my faith in manifesting my SP was not rock solid initially, I needed to change how I was looking at this. Instead of, I'm doing this work to manifest my specific person, I want you to start looking at like, this is an investment that you are doing for yourself. You're putting in an investment for you. And it is the greatest investment that one could ever make. Because what this is going to do is this is going to force you to look at the dynamics differently. No longer is this all about the specific person. This isn't solely about the specific person anymore. That dynamic has changed. You've shifted the pedestal. Now, of course, we still have a desire for that person. Of course, we still have the desire to see them in our life and to experience this life with them. But we need to step back and look at the bigger picture here. And the bigger picture is that this is so much greater than just your SP. This is so much bigger than money or material goods. I'm not saying that it's bad to desire those things, not at all. But we need to change the perspective of how we view this. If you struggle with patience and keeping the faith, we have to instead take a step back and change the perspective. Because it is from that new perspective that you're going to be able to look at the dynamics differently, and you're going to approach it differently, and you're going to react to it differently. Because a way to think of it is like this. If you were to today decide to just give up on manifestation, giving up on manifesting your SP, throw it all in the trash, and go back to the old ways of being, go back to the old patterns, go back to the old habits, is that a better alternative? To see these patterns keep playing out? When I shifted my focus to instead looking at this as it is, as this investment that I was making for me in making myself the best version of me and building myself and truly transforming myself, when I started to look at it like that, all of that anxiety, all of that fear and doubt dramatically decreased. Dramatically. I wouldn't say it was fully gone initially. And it's okay if we still have moments where we catch ourselves looking to the 3D or doubting. Those moments happen. But if they are becoming disruptive for you, if they're happening frequently for you, if we're noticing it all the time, that we are constantly looking and frustrated and waiting, feeling like we're waiting and we're waiting, then we need to take this step back and change the perspective. Because no good is going to come out of the constant reaction to the 3D and to that feeling of hurry up already. It's certainly not going to help things manifest any faster. And that said, we should be looking at this as an investment. We should be approaching this from the stance and from the place of, I'm doing this for me because I want to grow and I want to become all the things that I want to be. I want to experience this life. I want to experience this existence in a place of fulfillment and satisfaction and joy and feeling content, not from a place of fear and feeling so small. When I made that shift, so many things started to change. So many things started to lock into place in a good way. It felt like I took my power back, because effectively that's what I did. When I was no longer looking at this like there was something I needed to try to change on the outside, so much of that resistance just melted. Because there very well may be a part of us that does not fully believe or is not fully convinced that we have the power to change this, to change others. And if that is true, that's okay. But we need to stop looking at it like we're trying to change the outside circumstance. That shouldn't be the focus. That happens on its own, naturally, when we change internally. So shift the perspective and start looking at this as the greatest investment that you've ever made on yourself and on becoming the very best version of yourself. And not for SP. You're not doing this for SP. You're doing this for you. Because when I made this change, when I made this shift in my focus, this change in perspective, from there, things became so much lighter. Things became so much more attainable. It didn't feel so difficult. It didn't feel so daunting. Like this was something that I was setting to do that was so impossible and so big. It didn't feel so huge anymore. There were still moments, of course, but tremendously decreased. And when I really started to implement from that state, from that new perspective, things began to change and unfold without even trying, with no effort on my part. Things became effortless because I was doing this from a place that I truly wanted and I truly believed I could obtain. I was able to suspend the disbelief about everything else long enough so I could cement that new state of consciousness into my 3D reality. So if this is something that you're struggling with, we got to change the perspective here. Once you do this, once you make this investment and make it for you, about you, and for the outcome that is your greatest and best good, whatever that might look like. When you begin to change that dynamic and take your power back from the circumstances, that is when we see tremendous movement. And that is how we manifest anything that we want. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope this helps to give you something to really hold on to. I hope you found it informative. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to check out my other resources. I have links below to my one-on-one coaching, my blog, my social channels, my podcast, my workshops, courses, all that good stuff. I got a ton of resources down in that description box, so don't forget to check that out. Also, don't forget to check out the other videos on this channel. Each video goes into a different topic, but it all pertains in how to manifest the very best life possible. So on that note, until we meet again, you guys, as always, please take care, be well, and never forget how powerful you really are. Happy manifesting, all.